Hello and welcome back to Body Beyond the Scales, the podcast that gets you stronger and more confident in your body through building better habits. It has been a little while since I've posted an episode, so apologies for the delay in getting these episodes back up and running. I was down in Cornwall and I was down in Devon for a while over the summer, so I just didn't have a chance to upload an episode. I tried to get ahead on it, and you know when you try to get ahead on something and you actually end up worse and you're just not getting ahead with anything, I ended up doing that. So I was like, no, Holly, put this down and you can pick it back up in September when we're ready to go again, back to our regular weekly uploading schedule. And I'm happy to be back. So I'm kicking off this week then basically with a Q&A episode. I absolutely love doing Q&A episodes. So if you have any questions that you want me to answer, feel free to drop me a message on Instagram with your question and just say, can you answer this on your podcast? And I will absolutely do that. But yeah, if you drop me a message on Instagram at Holly Mills Fitness, and I'll get you in one of the future episodes. But now on to today's questions. We have 3 questions today, and I'm just going to be running you through them in detail. I'm excited to get cracking. So without further ado, let's get going. So question number 1 is, my partner has a very complicated relationship with food. She's had an eating disorder and now struggles with binging, and nothing seems to help. But she wants to lose weight healthily now. I've been helping her try get to the gym, but also taking up dance classes. She's also taking up dance classes and getting more movement in. But it's the binging that's the problem. How can I help her more? So first off, let's kind of talk about eating disorders and disordered eating. It's all a spectrum, basically. Like on one end of the spectrum, we've got a completely healthy relationship with food, complete food neutrality. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have eating disorders. And there's a space in between in which we get disordered eating. Now, this isn't necessarily something that's like I'm not defining this as like bin the scale. This is just how I think of it in my head. It's more of like a scale and like a spectrum. And some people will get to the point where like it's their relationship with food has become so problematic that it's gone into an eating disorder. Now, what's really important is eating disorders need to be diagnosed. And if you go to a coach and they say, yep, you've got anorexia, that is incorrect. You need to go see a doctor, and the doctor will go through those things with you, because a coach or a PT or a nutritionist probably isn't qualified to talk you through those things. That's where you need to go see a health professional who is qualified in this kind of thing, or can put you in the direction of the right people. Usually your GP. So if you suspect that you have an eating disorder and you're like, right, this is occupying a large range, like a large amount of my thoughts, and you say done a little bit of research into it, and you're like, actually, I think I might be ticking the criteria for like an eating disorder, then it's really important that you go seek that help from your GP. So I want to just preface this with, like, if you are feeling concerned about your relationship with food and you feel like, actually, I think that I might have an eating disorder, go get a diagnosis from your GP, because then they will be able to help. The whole point of a diagnosis is so that they can help you move forwards, and they'll be able to point you in the right directions, whether that's going and getting in touch with a charity, whether that's putting you through the NHS and moving you through to a different stage. That would be my recommendations there, is if you feel like you actively have an eating disorder. Now, from the context of this question, it seems like this person may have had an eating disorder in the past, but is going through a little bit of a cycle of like binging and restricting with food, or at least going through the binging with food. So it's really important that we kind of talk through here I'm going to assume in this situation that this person is not at the point of it's like the doctor's kind of like dealt with the stuff that needs to be dealt with there, and actually we're now at the point where like we're going through cycles of overeating and then undereating and overeating, or just through cycles of overeating. So if you do feel like, as I've said, if you do feel like you've got any problems with food that actually you need to go see a doctor about, please go speak to your GP. This is for if you feel like our relationship with food is in that more disordered eating, not eating disorder. So if we are feeling like we have got that disordered relationship with food, which a lot of people will experience, I've definitely had a disordered relationship with food in the past, especially around like dieting. Dieting kind of can cause a lot of problems with that. Then it might be time to work on your relationship with food, and this might be where you're sat. So one of the biggest things I would advise you, if you feel like you are overeating, is just thinking about what you can add into your life and what reasons could be causing that overeating. If you are overeating as a result of like you're trying to self-soothe, what can we like add into your life that's actually going to help with that? So say, for example, you're finding that you're binging when you are getting stressed, you are binging when you are getting you're overeating rather when you are getting stressed, you're overeating when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling bored, like whatever that kind of trigger is, it's really important to just address address that and go, okay, well, what actually can I add into my life that will make these things better? Okay, so I'm lonely, so I'm using a bar of chocolate and I'm going to overeat on that, and that's going to cause me to like feel less lonely for like a few minutes. Sure, yeah, that does help. I'm talking from experience here. That was my that was what I used to do. As if ever I felt lonely, like I definitely get the urge to eat food, generally eating chocolate. So that was that then comfort eating leading into that overeating. And then what you want to do there is go, okay, well, what can I replace that with? If I'm feeling lonely, how can I improve how I'm feeling right now? If I'm feeling lonely, do I need to reach out to people? Do I need to get some connection? Do I need to go be with people? Do I need to have a phone call? Like, what is it that you need to do to kind of like soothe that emotion and like improve that feeling there? And then what you could also do is go, okay, well, if this is constantly reoccurring, okay, so every weekend when I'm not working, I start to feel lonely. Is this a situation where you need to go, cool, right, what do we need to do to replace that? Is it that we need to get you, you do need to start going to a club on a weekend? Do you need to meet up with friends, schedule things in, like schedule a weekly walk with a friend? Like, what is it that you need to do to solve that problem? So that you've got that long-term and that short-term solution. And actually coming up with a list of things that will help is really, really, really useful. So if you're going, right, okay, when I'm lonely and I'm feeling like emotionally eating, here's what I'm going to do. That also requires you to be able to identify like kind of the emotion, what's going on. So if you kind of think retrospectively now, if you find that you've got any examples of like times that you've overeaten, ask yourself, can I what is the usual trigger? What's usually coming up? What are the emotions that are coming up there? And how can I handle that? And ask yourself kind of like what's moving forwards. What can you do to move forwards there to move through that? The other thing to do as well is to make sure that you're eating with structure throughout the day. So structure is really important because one, it makes food predictable and it tells your body when food is coming, and two, it also makes it a lot easier for you to just like stick to like regular patterns and regular like nutrition, which makes you far less likely to overeat in the short term and in the long term. So just making sure that you're getting all over like that structure in like within the meals, outside of the meals, and making sure you're getting in like 3 meals a day, but then also within the meals as well, and making sure that you're getting in a source of protein and a source of fiber at every meal. And that's going to help keep you fuller for longer, which is also just going to keep everything else like a little bit more stable. So you're not having these like big crashes and then thinking like, oh my God, I need to eat, or like I'm not eating for 10 hours and need to eat absolutely everything, or this pack of Jaffa cakes is going to solve the problem. It's really what we want to focus on is kind of keeping that balance and that structure. You might have heard me talk about in the past like steady seas and stormy seas. It's the same thing here. The steadier that we can keep those seas, the less likely you are to have these big high waves of like going and overeating on food. So really just asking yourself, like, how can I, one, add things into my life that will actually solve the problem that I am facing? Like, how can I do that? And then two, I also want to make sure that you can keep structure. Now, this person is asking the question they're asking the question on behalf of their partner. So it's really important here to go, okay, well, if we think that we can like influence this and help, how can we help? Now, the first thing, as I've said, like, is if you're basically what we want to focus on is making sure that it's coming from the person. You can't change somebody else and you can't make decisions for somebody else. The most important thing is that person feels like they have autonomy over, and they have autonomy, not just feels like, but they have autonomy over the decisions that they're making around their body, and they need to be ready to help themselves. So what's really important here is that that you feel like you're in a good position. If you want to help, you can absolutely do that, but you need to let them want you to help. And also you need to make sure that that's not going to affect you and your own mental health. So just making sure that you're looking after yourself as well as like helping them. So what I would recommend here is, if you want to support them, I would say, like, how can you help with improving things like structure? Well, you can do things like meal plan together, you can make and you can cook together, and you can like split the burden of cooking, or like just spend time together doing it and make it a really enjoyable experience. You can have, say, like date night where you're focusing on eating nutritious foods, but actually you can then like cook for each other, and actually that just makes it a nice experience. So that can really help, and just having that like structure in there, and having that time to sit down and meal plan together, it's that extra accountability as well, because like you've got someone else that you're doing it with. You can also like think about the basics together, so thinking about doing things like sleep, getting enough water in, journaling, like all of these things. You can like commit to a bedtime together and be like, right, okay, we're going to be in bed tonight by 9 o'clock. I'm going to be in bed tonight by 10 o'clock, like whatever it is that's going on, like that you need to, however many hours you need to get to sleep. But yeah, just making sure that you're committing to that like together, and then helping that other person on their way. Again, it's just an extra little bit of accountability to do it. The other thing as well, which I've like always found really useful, is if Julia and I are like ever when we do our monthly review, we go and do it in a coffee shop, generally in a coffee shop, and like that really helps. And like it's, yes, we review, but like you can also go journal there, and like you can write down like how you're feeling. So if you're feeling like you're struggling with time to journal, why not book in a coffee day where you go sit, you can spend 10-15 minutes like journaling, and then the rest of it you just enjoy your drink and have a nice chat, you know. So you can do that. I mean, if you're not going with your partner, you can go do that by yourself. I have a great time in coffee shops when I'm by myself. I'm just either people watch, or I'm reading, or I'm working. But I always find that like I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. And it's really nice when you've got the one focus like when you're there as well. So yeah, like that's something else that you can do to like hold yourself accountable there. So when it comes to obviously like making sure that you're helping, just asking the person as well, like, what do you need to help? What support do you need from me? Where can I be supporting you? Like, where can I be supporting you the most? And just remembering, like I said, just look after your own mental health as well as thinking about your partners. It's really important that you like, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup. So yeah, just make sure that you're sorting yourself out as well. But yeah, let's talk about question number 2 then. So question number 2 is all about setbacks. So the question says, how do I deal with setbacks or feeling like you're not getting anywhere? I, quote unquote, started again 2 weeks ago and gained my first week, lost a half pound in the second. It feels like the pattern I've seen every time I've tried to diet before, which has led to the big red bucket button. That's in air quotes, and that's in quotes, so I'm assuming that is quoting me saying the big red bucket button. I'm 91 kg and 5 foot 4 inches, so there's plenty to get rid of, but I'm hitting my step goal regularly and getting 2 strength workouts in. It feels like it should be coming off quicker than this. Bonus question, why does it have to be so hard? So the question here is asking, how do you basically handle setbacks when it feels like you're not getting anywhere? There's also like a question in here about like weight loss plateaus, and then finally, why does it have to be so hard? So I'm going to answer all 3 of these questions and make sure that like actually you've got a good kind of like clarity here, because I think we've all been there where we're like, why are the scales just not moving? Why am I not seeing the results that like I'm putting the effort in for? Like, why is this not changing? So I'm going to talk you through what to do in these situations. So the first part of this, I want to talk about dealing with setbacks. And this is a skill that I think nobody ever teaches you. A lot of places use this word and they talk about this like in a really like they talk about this word, but like they don't understand what it means, or like they don't give it like any context of what it means. So like basically dealing with setbacks is all about resilience. And I think you hear that in schools all over the shop. Like they'll talk about like respect, resilience, whatever. But like they talk about like their 3 R's. But actually I don't think anybody really talks about what resilience means. And really all it is your bounce back ability. But it's actually can be broken down into like 5 components. And I'm going to talk you through these and I want you to have a think about it. And the reason that I wanted to kind of mention this first is that resilience is something that I think the better of an understanding that we have around it, the more we can figure out how we can become more resilient. And the better we are at bouncing back from things means that whenever setbacks happen, we feel less like pressing that big red button. And that's what's important here, is that we're not going to be pressing that big red bucket button, because you're able to deal with setbacks and you know what you're dealing with in these situations. So without further ado, here are the 5 different like kind of how the 5 parts of resilience, 5 ways that we can break it down. The first part is emotional regulation. So this is how well can you handle stress. So if you feel like you're really good at handling like stress, and you feel like something stressful comes up, but actually you're good at dealing with it like internally, like it's not sending you into a complete spiral, then it probably means that you've got quite good resilience to emotions, like emotional changes. That doesn't mean that you're like completely dead inside. That just means that like you can handle emotions and you can handle stress without spiraling out of control. The second part of it is optimism. So do you believe that things can get better? If you are in a complete negative Nelly, you might be low on resilience because you're not seeing that things can get better. You have, this is a really cheesy quote, but like you have survived 100% of the things that have happened to you so far, which is good evidence that, you know, you can keep going. So it's really important that like we ask ourselves, like, how optimistic do we feel about things? How optimistic do we feel about handling things? If we're looking at a situation and going, oh God, and then this could happen, and this could happen, and this could happen, and then I'm really stressed about this, and then I'm really stressed about that, like that sounds like we're approaching the situation with not too much optimism. So we want to ask ourselves, how can we improve our optimism, and how can we feel like things are going to get better? Next up is cognitive flexibility. And this is asking us, how good are you at like shifting plans when life changes? So how flexible are you within your mind? So if I told you, oh, we're going for a walk at 2 p.m. and then I got stuck in traffic and I didn't turn up until 2:05, how stressed were you? Basically, like how flexible did you need to be? Or let's say that you were planning to go to a restaurant, you turned up at the restaurant and they said, sorry, we've actually got no tables booked, and you're like, oh no, now we're gonna have to go eat somewhere else. Like, how flexible are you at like dealing with those things and those changes that just come up? And how open do you feel to that? Now, this is something that, like, for me, I definitely found that cognitive flexibility is probably the area that I struggle most with. Out of these, I'll be honest, like with all of them, I'd say I'm pretty resilient as a person, but cognitive flexibility is definitely something that, like, I think is a little bit trickier, especially when it feels like things are out of your control. So just ask yourself here, like, which one of these, like, if any of these so far are kind of speaking to you and you're like, oh, maybe I'm not particularly good at that. And the next one is self-efficacy. So do you feel like you are capable of handling setbacks? And, like, do you think that you have the capacity to cope? If you do think that you have the capacity to cope, then it's really important that you, like, believe in yourself, like, and that you can do that. And that is an area of resilience. I'm a big advocate for, like, I will figure it out. Like, if I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do something, I just don't know how to do it yet. Like, and my way of viewing things is, if someone else has figured it out, why can't I? Like, if someone else has figured out how to do this, like, why can't I? There must be a solution to this problem. It's just I haven't found it yet. And that is a really, like, useful skill to have, and is really helpful when it comes to resilience. And then the final one out of the 5 is social support. So do you have people that can help, and do you ask for help when you need it? And this is really important, because having that, like, social network and having the people around you and having that community where you're able to ask for help is really important and really useful, because a lot of this is lonely, and a lot of this can feel like you're the only person that this has ever happened to. I can guarantee you all of these things are not are things that happen to everybody, but, like, it's a lot easier when you've got that social community and that social network, and you use that social network. So just to summarize all that, resilience is about bounce back ability, and this is how we deal with setbacks. It's, you have a better degree of resilience and you improve your resilience. Resilience doesn't just mean, oh, it's grit and it's tenacity. It comes down to emotional regulation, how optimistic you feel about things, cognitive flexibility, how efficacy, that's definitely not a word, how good you feel with your self-efficacy, and your social support, like, and how you feel like that network is around you. So just kind of tying it down to those things and reflecting on those things there. Which do you feel like is your strongest area? Which do you potentially feel like is your weakest area? Do you feel like you're a resilient person? Is there anything that's kind of coming up? And you can always look at situations and go, oh, maybe I didn't handle that setback very well there, and it's actually because I've not got very good cognitive flexibility at the moment, and actually that's something that I need to work on. So just asking yourself these questions is really useful, because the more that we have, like, the more knowledge that we have, the more that we can use that. So that's kind of like what it comes to when it comes to dealing with setbacks, is we want to ask ourselves about resilience and asking how we can kind of bounce back better. So let's now talk about weight loss and the issues around weight loss and what's kind of like stopping this person from losing weight. So whenever it comes to losing weight, it's really important to ask yourself, like, what are we kind of seeing here? Are there really no changes, or like what's the situation? So the first thing that we do is look at the data. Now, I don't have this person's data here, so I can't, like, answer that specifically. So what I'm going to recommend is what I'm going to talk through is how I would recommend to do it. So the first thing I'd say is, are we really making no changes? So what data has been collected? Have we got daily weigh-ins, and are we looking at the average, or are we looking at a once per week measurement and saying, oh, it's gone up, it's gone down? What I would recommend doing is collecting the weight for, like, the every single day across the week, and then taking an average. So what I do is, when I do my check-ins for my one-to-one clients, is I take their daily weigh-ins, I calculate the average, and then I write down the lowest weight. Then the following week, I look at the average. Has the average changed, and has the lowest weight changed? If the answer is yes on both of them, great, we're moving in the right direction. If the average has gone down but the lowest weight hasn't gone down, then I'm like, oh, that's like kind of like an orange. We need to, like, pay attention to that for the next week. Is there any changes? Is there any reason why it wouldn't have changed? For example, was this person, like, have they done like 4 days at maintenance last week, or have they been on, like, loads of meals out, or have they not hit their steps? Are they ill? Are they due on the period? Like, what's going on there? And then if their average or their lowest weight hasn't gone down between the 2 weeks, then I start to look and go, like, okay, cool, what's potentially going on here? Is there another issue? But And that's kind of what you want to do to collect the data. So weighing every single day, and then looking at the averages, and looking at the like lowest as well. Like that's like the most useful way that I've kind of come across like doing it. I appreciate that that is one, extra maths, and two, like not as easy as just stepping on the scales and going, I've gone down a pound. But the more data that you have, that it's a lot easier to actually make changes and actually understand what's going on with your body, and seeing the fluctuations and starting to understand that they're a normal part of life as well. So the next thing that we want to look at then is, let's say we've got all that data and we're like, right, there's a change that's not been made here. We're kind of in that orange to red zone of like, oh, average weight hasn't gone down, lowest weight hasn't gone down. Or we might be like, one's gone down, but the other one's not really changed. So yeah, we then like ask ourselves like, okay, is this an issue with consistency? So is it that you're being inconsistent with calories, or are you being inconsistent with steps? For this person that's asked the question here, it sounds like they're all over their steps, which sounds absolutely fantastic. We absolutely love getting steps in. So that is great that they're all over their steps, but we're checking and we're looking at the data. Are you getting your steps in every single day? If the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, how often are you not hitting your steps? And is it just a case of the next best thing, like, oh, you were 1,000 steps off? Or is it a case of like, oh, one day I hit my steps and then the next day I hit 3 steps total? So like just understanding what the variations mean, understanding the data, and like being honest with yourself and seeing this almost like as a like logical third party perspective, rather than trying to like be emotional and like sit in it, which is tricky to do. I fully appreciate that, but yeah, just asking yourself what you can do there. And then once we've looked at those steps, and if we can see that those like have been hit every single day, then we can kind of move on and talk about calories. If steps have not been hit every single day, that's the first thing to address, because that's then a consistency issue, and that's not an issue with anything else. The next thing to talk about then is calories. So what do we do? Are you being consistent with your calories? So first thing is, are you tracking everything? So is every single thing that goes in your mouth being tracked? If the answer is yes, great, then we can then look at the numbers. If the answer is no, then we need to start there. We need to make sure that you're putting the right, that you're tracking what is going into your body. And then the question is, are you hitting your calories every single day? So if the answer is yes, we're hitting them bang on, we're hitting, let's say you're aiming for 1,600 calories, you're hitting 1,600 calories every day. If not, how often are you going over? What's the situation where you're going over? How much are you going over by? Is it a case of like, oh, well, you went to maintenance on 2 of the days over the last few weeks, but like that's it, then that shouldn't be affecting calories too much? Or is it a case of like, oh, you went over and then you went over and over? Like what was the situation there? So like, how often are you like kind of hitting them, and how often are you going over? If it's an issue with calories, then we want to address that there. Let's say you've been hitting your calories every single day, you've been hitting your steps every single day, and there's still no shift on the scales. That's where we might then want to look at and go, your calories might be wrong. Your calorie calculation might be wrong. So the first thing that I would recommend is recalculating. Now, if you hit the link in the show notes, on just underneath this video, you will find a link to my calorie calculator, so you can pop your details in there and get out your number. Now, if you have already run the numbers and you're like, yeah, but I'm eating that and like I'm not losing weight, then it might be the situation where the calculation is wrong. Now, you don't defy physics still, like you still work by the rules of physics, and physics. Energy in like can't be created or destroyed, so energy in has to be lower than energy out in order for you to lose weight. It might just be that the calculations are just the best guess, like they're a good estimate, they're not perfect. So you can just basically take the number that you've currently got and minus 100 and start there. So let's say that you were eating 1,600 calories, that's not working anymore. You've done all of the other steps above, you've checked it's not a consistency issue, then we're going to drop calories down by another 100. So then you're going to just be aiming for 1,500. I've done this with someone this week, with their weight just wasn't shifting, and we were like, right, is this a consistency issue? Is this a calculations issue? And what we said was like, right, let's focus on getting the steps up and there. But actually what we also did was drop calories down by 100, because we were like, I feel like for the most part as well, we've not seen a shift over time, even when you were hitting your steps. So with them, we've done that literally within the space of a week. We've started to see a shift again on the scales. So it was just a case of we just needed to make a shift with that number. So asking yourself, like, do we just drop by 100, and making that little bit easier for you? But do that as the last resort, because otherwise you're going to be like, oh no, but I'm eating 1,200 calories and I'm not losing weight. And the answer is you didn't do the steps before. So just what I'm trying to kind of like reiterate the point here is like, do these steps in order. So first off, ask yourself, have I got enough data? Next off, it's then looking at, if the answer is yes, you've got enough data, then then it's about consistency with steps and calories, making sure that you're hitting those. And if you are hitting those and there's still no change, that's when you then go to the recalculating and making the changes there. So to answer the final question of why is it so hard, what I want to do is kind of like ask you the question of how can you make this easier? So what would make this journey easier for you? Is it a case of like, oh, well, you feel like you're missing out on like eating certain foods? Well, can you pre-track those foods? Can you get them into your day and get them in so that you feel like you're actually including them? What would make it easier for you in terms of exercise? Like, would it be that you exercise with other people? Would it be that you exercise by yourself? Is it that you're doing evening sessions at the moment and you prefer to do morning sessions? So asking yourself, like, what would make it easier? Because this is meant to be like a process that is, yes, it's a change, but like it shouldn't feel like punishment. I think there's a big, I mean, this could go off on a tangent here, but like there's a big idea that weight loss is meant to be a punishment for being fat. And to me, it is rooted in a lot of like morality, and it's a lot of a belief that like if you are overweight, you have done this like to yourself, like this is this is something that you have done, and that is not fundamentally true. Like you are not any better for being slimmer, you are not any worse for being like fatter, basically. And there's this whole morality around it, and I think this is really been put into weight loss drugs at the moment, and there's a lot of like people sharing their opinions on weight loss drugs, and there's a morality into it because they're like, oh, you shouldn't be taking the easy way out, and it's seen as the easy way out because fat loss quote unquote should be hard because it should be a punishment. And like we're then coming back to this argument of morality. And yeah, anyway, asking yourself how can you make this journey easier is absolutely fine. And that's not me saying go take weight loss drugs. That's just me saying like, how can you make this journey easier? How can you make it more enjoyable? And what I would ask you to focus on is your habits. How can you make doing the habits that build the foundations of sustainable fat loss, like how can you make those things easier? How can you integrate them into your life in a way that feels good for you? So that could be thinking about things like I said, food, like how can you make sure that you're including the foods that you love? How can you actually enjoy doing exercise? How can you actually make sure that you're getting your steps in an enjoyable way? How can you make sure that you're getting your water in? How can you make sure you're getting enough sleep? So just asking yourself how you can do these things in a fun way is great. Also, you can just gamify things if you feel like you want to make things slightly more entertaining. Also, the more that you enjoy it, the more likely you are to stick to it and the more motivated you're going to feel. So we want to make sure that this isn't a punishment. This isn't a chore. This isn't something that you're forcing yourself to do. I want you to be excited about these changes that you're making because they're going to be changes for the long run. Realistically, if we're talking about losing weight and keeping it off, you're going to need to make most of these changes for the rest of your life. So I want you to enjoy what you're doing. I don't want you to spend the next 40, 50, 60 years just being in pain and like hating everything. So just ask yourself, how can you have fun with it? How can you make it more interesting? And yeah, like that is what will make it easier. If you have any ideas on that, then please let me know in the comments of this episode. Like if you're like, how can you make weight loss more easier? If there's anything that you've done, any tips that you've like shared, you can share them. I would absolutely love to hear like how you make like weight loss more fun. Yeah, how you've made, I guess weight loss on the one hand, but also on the other hand, like how you've made building a sustainable lifestyle more fun for you, and building like healthier habits like just more interesting and yeah, more engaging. So on to the final question. So this was a question that was left on one of my TikTok videos. The consistency games are going to be back within the next few weeks. They're coming back on the 6th of October for 8 weeks. I'm super excited. You can join the priority list now and get early access to get first dibs on one of the spaces before they all go. But the question that was asked was basically, is it you that's doing the messaging, or will it just be like just some generic like AI response? And when you join the consistency games, it is all me. Like I will be doing the coaching there. So when you join, like one of the big things that I really focus on is accountability. That's why like the spaces are limited. So there's only going to be 25 spaces available, because I will be coaching like 25 people in the consistency games plus my one-to-one coaching clients. So like there's only one of me. I only have so much energy. I've got a lot of energy, but like it is tapped. So it's capped rather. The focus of what you get when you join the consistency games is like accountability. So you'll have a weekly check-in where you get written feedback from me. You'll be able to ask any questions that you've got in the group WhatsApp, and you'll be able to share how you're getting on there, share any wins, and that's going to give you that sense of community as well, and give you that group around you. So if I, like I was saying earlier about resilience, if you feel like you need more social support, then consistency games. But like that's just going to be your opportunity to actually get feedback from me and like ask other people like for advice and stuff like that. And then there's also the prizes at the end, which will definitely help keep you accountable. So there are 3 prizes on offer, and they are there's like £500 worth of prizes there. But there's one prize which is for basically being in like the consistency pro. So there's like a cap on the points that we do. So for every time you complete a habit, you get a point. And if you hit over the consistency threshold, then you'll get a then you'll get entered into the prize draw for like the consistency pro, so the consistency pro prize, which is a mouthful to say. There's then the prize for the champion of the next best thing mindset. And what this is it's about consistency, not perfection. So if you're sharing how you are managing to be consistent, even when you've not been perfect, how you've used that next best thing mindset, which all gets explained when you join the games as well. But that then is another prize. And then we also have the biggest cheerleader. So the person that's been like kind of like amping everybody up, revving everybody up, and making sure that, you know, we're cooking on gas all the time. Yeah, we're feeling good. So there's 3 prizes on offer, which definitely adds the accountability for the challenge as well, but also just make it a lot of fun, you know. And then it also helps with the consistency games, also help with like kind of knowing what to do. So you get your calories calculated for you. There's no guesswork. I'll adjust them. Like if we're not seeing the changes that we want to see, I'll tell you when to like adjust them and stuff. So you kind of just take the thinking out of the process for you. And also you get your workout program sorted. So whether you want a beginner like gym at home, that didn't make sense. Beginner to the gym at like sessions, or whether you want like home workouts or like whatever. You just kind of like tell me which one you'd like, and I'll just pop them on. You tell me how many days a week you feel like you can do it for, and I'll do the details basically. And also making sure that you've got your like basic habits set up, so your steps, your water, making sure you've got an eating structure in place, and just basically making sure that you've got the foundations to lose weight and keep it off for the long term. And the important thing is that you're not doing this alone. Like I tell people, like, this is my full-time job. Like, it's my full-time job to help people lose weight and keep it off. You probably have a full-time job already. It's a lot harder to focus on all these things at once, like adding them in and thinking about things and thinking, oh, am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Rather than just having like someone just to kind of guide you along the way. Like I will teach you how to do this for yourself, yes, but I will make the process a whole lot easier by just having someone else, like making sure you're not second guessing every move that you've got. So just to run through details for the consistency games, if you're on the priority list and you sign up within the first 48 hours when the spaces go live on the 28th at 10 a.m, you can join the consistency games for £99. And if you're not on the priority list, you have to wait until a general release on the 30th, and I was struggling with 48 hours then on the 30th, and it will be £129 to join then. But also I'm pretty sure that like most of the spaces will go to the priority list. There won't be very many spaces left after that, so you'd be like really skating on thin ice if you're waiting until the 30th to sign up. So join the priority list. I'm going to pop the link in the show notes underneath this as well. Yeah, if you've got any questions on the consistency game or any questions that you want me to answer in future episodes, then feel free to drop them drop me a message and I will absolutely answer them. But otherwise, have an absolutely fantastic rest of the day, and I'll catch you soon.